All right, joining me right now, California Democrat Congressman Ami Bera, who sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. So good to see you, Congressman. So what do you think about that? So the two seemingly in agreement ahead of their meeting on Wednesday. Do you believe that's promising?
You know, at least it's a starting point. I certainly don't fully expect Vladimir Putin to hold some of these cyber criminals because they obviously are operating.
You see there's a catch, possibly.
I think there's a catch here. So.
Yeah. Okay. President Biden agreeing that the relationship between the U.S. and Russia is indeed frayed. It's at a low point. What do you believe needs to come from their meeting to perhaps bring some promise between relations? I mean, Putin put it this way. He said a deterioration between the U.S. and Russia. What do you think could potentially come out of this meeting that would solidify things better?
You know, I think it really is at a low point. You've seen Russian aggression and expansion of their ambitions. I think the fact that he met with the G7, he's now in Brussels, he'll meet with NATO tomorrow, and then on to Geneva with Vladimir Putin. I think it's a starting point. I mean, if you can create a context and a coalition and open that dialogue, but I think it will take a while. I mean, there's still, we talked about the cyber issues that are still unresolved. Ukraine remains unresolved. Crimea, you know, we're seeing what's happening in the Baltic states. So there's a lot on the table. But again, I appreciate that the Biden administration is willing to engage in this dialogue as a starting point.
One of your colleagues on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Ranking Member Michael McCaul, had this to say this morning about the U.S. relationship with Russia. Listen.
Well, I think we need to demonstrate, and the president needs to demonstrate with Putin, there will be consequences to your actions if you continue to do this. They have been mounting this up in the last just month, and extraordinarily. And I think sanctions are great, but I think it's time to start thinking about hitting back. When we do attribution, we need to have rules of the road. I passed a cyber diplomacy bill out of my committee. They need to know that when they do this, there are consequences to their actions, and we're going to hit them back. Until we do that, they're going to continue with bad behavior.
Do you agree?
You know, I certainly agree with the ranking member, Mr. McCaul, that there has to be consequences to action. There's got to be some reciprocity. Again, you know, we saw the 4 years of the Trump administration, how they just essentially let Russia do whatever they wanted. So we're starting at that point. And again, I think the Biden administration certainly will consider what reciprocal actions are proportionate.
Mm-hmm. The approach still verify, then trust, right?
Exactly.
All right. So the NATO is about to get underway tomorrow. Biden wrapping up G7. There seemed to be a collective sigh of relief during the G7 summit, and even expressed relief from some leaders who said, you know, it's good to see the U.S. is back, and it looks like there's going to be some real cooperation. Do you consider this to have been a very important reset, and how might this assist the U.S. on the global stage?
Absolutely. I think the G7 summit was a success for the Biden administration. You saw President Macron and others talk about, you know, the U.S. is back. And you know, I think the communique really does outline a lot of victories, not just for us, but for democratic values. And in that communique, you see the term values. And I think coalitions are coming together around values of democracy, human rights, free markets, and the rule of law. And you know, that's a restoration of the transatlantic relationship. You've seen in the previous months the administration restoring trans-Pacific relations. You've seen the state visits by the Prime Minister Suga from Japan and President Moon from Korea. So, you know, this is a very ambitious foreign policy agenda, but they've got to repair the damage that was done under the Trump administration, where it was a go it alone.
Let me shift gears. Speaking of the Trump administration, now published reports and sources coming out talking about the Department of Justice looking into leakers, looking into its own administration, looking into members of Congress to find out who knew what, when, where, the retrieval of phone numbers and information about a number of members of Congress, even a minor. Where are you on this? And do you believe, indeed, that any kind of subpoena of the attorneys general, Barr or Sessions, will bear any fruit?
You know, I think these were outrageous actions and another piece of evidence of the abuse of power of the Trump administration. How he looked at the Justice Department as his own personal vigilante and his own personal lawyers. I'm glad that that Attorney General Garland is having the Inspector General take a look at this. I certainly hope the Senate Judiciary that said they're going to take a look and investigate this. We've got to get to the bottom of this. And, you know, I can't imagine that there's any way that Attorney General Sessions or Attorney General Barr didn't know what was going on if, in fact, this was happening. And, you know, we've got to hold them accountable. And I would be open to subpoenaing them and having them testify.
All right, Congressman Ami Bera, we'll leave it there for now. Good to see you. Thank you so much.
Good to see you. Thank you.